Hello and welcome all you Nerd Knights to episode 1 of Bardsung, where we're going to be painting Wyldshell. This is a request from YouTube member Vincent, and that is the perk of being a YouTube member. You get to pick what we want to do first. So we're going to be doing the Wyldshell, but thank you to all the YouTube members. Make sure you hit me up on Instagram of what you want to see painted coming up in the future. Can't thank you guys enough for everything you do. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button real quick, hit that bell, hit everything. This is going to be a little bit longer tutorial, and we're going to really focus on that skin and shell because that is the focal point of our miniature, but I'm going to make it as easy as possible, so hang on tight and let's go. The first thing we're going to be doing is going to be scraping off all those nasty mold lines on our miniature. There's not too many. These are actually better quality than I was expecting, so kudos to Steam Forge Games. Next, we're going to take some Stirland Mud. If you don't have Stirland Mud, use whatever you have from Army Painter or Vallejo, whatever kind of earth basing you have. Put that on there and let that dry. Live in a dry climate so it doesn't take that long to dry. Once you are completely dry, take some black primer with your airbrush, or take your spray can of black, flat black, and we're going to spray all over that miniature, covering it entirely. Next, take your white primer or your white spray can and hit your miniature from above, with the focal point of it really being on the face and the top part of that shell and shoulders. Really going to try and build up these highlights naturally. For our first color, we're going to be using Death World Force, and this is going to go all over the skin of our turtle. Now we should be thinning it properly, and I'm using a wet palette. If you would like to see how I utilize my wet palette, make sure you watch my wet palette video. How many times can I say wet palette? I guess 4 or 5. We're going to put this all over our skin. Make sure we do have it thin, and you can kind of see that highlighting, that zenithal highlighting poking through, and that's going to create our natural highlights, which is going to really stand out once we get every color done. For our turtle shell, we're going to be using some Waaagh Flesh. Now, this is going to be all over the back of the turtle shell. You can see there's some shell portion on the front, but we're not going to use this color for the front. We're only going to use it on the back. For our front of our shell, we're going to just use some Karak Stone. Nothing too crazy there. And we're also going to use the same color on the webbing of our hands of our turtle. For the claws of our turtle, we're going to use some black Templar, which is contrast paint. If you don't have this, you can just use regular straight black. I just felt like using black Templar because it's easier to put on and I can set it and forget it. For our eyeball on both sides, we're going to use some pure white, whatever kind of pure white you have. For the skin portion and the skin portion only, we're going to use some Athanian Camoshade, and we're going to put that all over our skin area. Try not to get it in the white of the eye socket, but if you get it in there, not a problem because you can clean it up once it is dry. For the turtle shell, we're going to be using Agrax Earthshade. Don't forget to get it on the front top portion of our shell as well. Now we're going to start with the reapplications, and we're going to do a reapplication of Deathworld Forest. Now we're only getting on the raised portions. Do not get into the recesses of our miniature, and you're going to start seeing these highlights getting built up very, very quickly. So we're only going on the raised portions, and don't forget the feet and the back as well of the legs. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Deathworld Forest and Elysian Green. And again, we're going to be going over the raised portions as well. Our focal point is obviously the face and that left hand that is coming down. Also our feet as well. We are really going to focus on those areas and really make those stand out. So when you're looking at the miniature, that's what you see the most. Next, we're going to take some Elysian Green, and we're going to be going over those same exact areas we were just going over. Again, building up those highlights on the face and on the hands of our turtle wizard or whatever kind of character he is. I haven't played it yet, so I'm not sure. And we are going all over those raised areas. Again, do not get into the recesses and really focus on the upper and bottom lip of our turtle. As you can see, he's got a bunch of cracks and crevices that we do not want to get into, but creating the highlights on those raised areas around them. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Elysian Green and Ogryn Camo. And again, we're going over those same raised areas. I know it's kind of beating a dead horse, but as you can tell, these highlights are really starting to build up, and you can really start seeing a difference already. And the more highlights we put into it and the less we do each time on those highlights, the more they stand out. I know it's kind of contradictory, but it makes sense in my brain. So really hit up those areas that we've been hitting up and focus on that face, and you don't want too much paint on there, just enough to make it stand out just a little bit each time. And as a final highlight, we're just going to take some pure Ogryn Camo. Now, if you do this and you want to take it just a little bit further, you can also mix a little bit of Ushabti Bone after you do this and really hit that face and little portions of the arms and legs just to give it that extra vibrant color. And we're just focusing on those same areas as you're watching this video and really taking your time. I know this took a long time to do, but it is worth it because this is what people are going to be looking at when they're looking at this miniature, is the skin of the turtle. As you're finishing up the skin and you are happy with whatever you have done, and if you want to take it further, like I just said, take some Ushabti Bone and mix it in there and just do a couple little pieces here and there. Now, if you need to clean up your eyeball, put a little bit of white in there, and then we're going to take some Aethermatic Blue, which is a contrast paint from Citadel. I love this color. I love the contrast paints to begin with when you utilize them correctly. And we're just going to put those in the eyeballs of our turtle and match the card art with that blue glowing eye. For our turtle shell, we're just going to do a reapplication of Waaagh Flesh. Again, not in the recesses, just on the raised circular areas of our shell. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Waaagh Flesh and Straken Green, and we are going to put this on the raised areas of the same place we just put our Waaagh Flesh on. And we're going to start building up those highlights. Next, we're going to take some pure Straken Green, and we're going to put those in the same exact areas, again, building up our highlights on our turtle shell. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Straken Green and Nurgling Green and do in the same exact areas. Now, if you want to take it a little bit further, you can just do some pure Nurgling Green, but I felt like this was a good enough mixture and a good enough tone that I liked it. But again, this is your miniature. Do what you want with it. This is just where I stopped. Alright, we're done with the skin and the shell. That took a lot longer than I anticipated, but I'm sure it looks fantastic on your miniature. So we're going to start with the staff of our turtle. We're going to use some Dryad Bark, just put it all over that staff. For our rope areas, we're going to put this all over the rope, and we're going to be using some Mournfang Brown. For our dead fish that our turtle has caught while completing a quest or whatever he was doing, we're going to use some Incubi Darkness. For the coral-like substance on our staff, that's how my brain interpreted it, we're going to be using some pure Nurgling Green, just on those coral-looking areas. For our chest and little bag on the back of our turtle, we're going to be using a little Steel Legion Drab. For our cool little necklace our turtle's wearing, we're going to use some Warplock Bronze, and we're not going to do anything else with that. We're just going to keep it as is. For all of our little cusps and clasps, yeah, I know, kind of annoying. Use some Retributor Armour on those areas. For our parchment paper areas, we're going to be using a little bit of Wraithbone. For our little balls of, I don't know what they are, maybe magical powder carriers, I'm not sure. Balthasar Gold, there should be 2 in the back, 1 on the front. For all of our little shell areas, we're going to use some Morghast Bone. There should be several on the back side and a couple on the front. For a couple of our starfish, we're going to use 2 colors, the first one being Screamer Pink. There's no right or wrong way you can do this. This is just what I'm doing. And for the other ones, we're going to use a little Stegadon Scale Green, as you'll see in the next slide. Just pick a couple, paint 1 of each, and move on to the next. Now for everything we just painted in this step, Do not get any on the skin or the shell, and do not get any on the necklace. We're going to paint everything over with some Agrax Earthshade, and that's going to create the darkness and depth of the shade. And while you're letting this dry, head over to our Instagram at nerd.night so you can stay up to date. Send me a message. Hit me up with all of your miniatures that you paint, because I love seeing what you guys do. It motivates me to paint more. To highlight up our first starfish, we're going to take some of that Screamer Pink and just reapply it. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Screamer Pink and Pink Horror and start getting the topped raised areas of our starfish that we painted pink. And then in our last little step, we're just going to take some normal Pink Horror and highlight up those raised areas again. We're going to do the same type of thing for our blue starfish. We're going to take a reapplication of Stegadon Scale Green, and then we are going to take a 50-50 mix of our Stegadon Scale Green and Temple Guard Blue and hit the raised areas, and then finally Temple Guard Blue again for our final highlight on our starfish. I know it's a lot of work for starfish, but when you turn it around, this really stands out and it catches the eye, and I really liked it. You can also use some of this on the fish as well. They're on the right side if you're looking at it, shell of our turtle, just to kind of give it some tone variance, because we're about to do a little dry brush on our fish. And what we're going to do is take some Grey Knight's Steel and just do a little dry brush on our fish to give it that silvery metallic blue look, and that's all we're going to do for the fish. For our green coral, we're going to take a little bit of a dry brush of Ogryn Camo and just get those up a little bit. If you get a little bit on the brown staff, it's not that big of a deal, but just take your time and don't go crazy with it. For all of our raised rope areas, we're going to take some Doombull Brown and hit on those raised rope areas. Do not get any in the recesses, just the raised portions. For our shells, we're going to take some Ushabti Bone and just get those up a little bit. This is kind of a difficult thing to do because of the spiralness of the shell, but do your best. I'm going to do a little reapplication of Steel Legion Drab on the bag and a little bit on the chest. If you don't want to do the chest though, you can keep it as is and it would probably be just fine. For our little bells, we're going to take a little bit of Sigmarite and just dry brush those on real quick. I know it's out of focus. I'm sorry. I apologize. Take some Liberator Gold and re-hit our gold areas. The clasps. Psst, 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 psst. And as we're coming down to the wire here, we're almost done. We're going to take some Aggaros Dunes, another contrast paint. We're just going to put it onto our raised mud area of our turtle. You can put it wherever you want because we're about to mix some Militarium Green in there, and it doesn't need to be anything specific. The more you mix those two colors together, I think the cooler it looks. So plop it in there wherever you want and then let it dry completely. And while you're letting that dry, hit it with some Abaddon Black on the rim. And if you want some extra pizzazz and spunk, you can take some green tufts and plop that down. I'm also going to take some yellow flowers because I feel like this turtle would be a warm welcoming for nature, and put those on the backside. And that is it. You are done. Whew. I know yours looks good. I know it does because you guys sent me your miniatures. They look fantastic. And I'm sure you're happy with your product. It took a little bit longer than a normal video, but that miniature looks freaking awesome. So thank you so much for watching. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing more Bardsung. Let me know what you want to see in the future videos in the comments below. I want to know what you guys want to watch. So until next time, paint on.